Hi guys, welcome back to your weekly dose of life-work balance. In this video, I'll talk about the Reframe pillar in my Harmony Compass and how knowing what stress is, identifying the triggers, and building resilience can help you manage it better. My name is Sabrina Cadini. I'm your holistic precision life coach and the creator of the Life Work Balance System, helping you live and work better thanks to customized lifestyle changes. If you'd like to know more, make sure you subscribe to my channel and click the bell to receive notifications every time I have new content for you. This video might be a little longer than usual since stress is one of my favorite topics, and I hope I can provide you with useful and valuable information. I've learned a lot about stress and anxiety because they've been part of my life without even realizing it since I don't even remember. And I'll tell you more in a few minutes. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. How many times do you get stressed or anxious in a day? Just be honest. Maybe more than once. We can all agree that stress is very, if not too familiar in our modern society. And sometimes we don't even pay attention to those situations. They happen so often that they become part of our normal everyday operations. And we live in a technology-driven era where everything happens in a super fast, super efficient, and super productive way. We juggle work, life, and even school while staying home with family. Our work week has become longer with more and more to-dos. And what about ourselves? What about time for ourselves? We are usually last on our list, focused on other to-dos and demanding deadlines, leaving us so exhausted at the end of the day that we can't even sleep well in the night. And the next morning, we start all over again. But this never-ending schedule is taking a toll on our productivity and well-being. So what is stress anyway? Well, stress is simply our body's natural physical reaction to a change, whether depending on a circumstance or in the environment. Basically, our brain decides that a response to a certain threat is required for our protection and survival. In ancient times, we had to run from tigers chasing us. Today, we usually react to the perception, not the actual reality of a threat, whether it's a thought, a demanding boss, certain foods, family issues, information overload, being unable to pay our bills, even changes in temperature, or simply not having enough time for our to-dos. And when we are exposed to a stressor, a region of the brain called hypothalamus sends a signal to another region, the pituitary gland, which increases the production of the hormone cortisol in the adrenal glands. This signals your whole body that a stressful situation is occurring. So cortisol would help you react quickly and run away or fight the threat if you were chased by a tiger. But it does exactly the same whenever we feel threatened. Our brain doesn't know the difference between a stressful workday and a tiger, so it behaves in the same exact way. And this is why many people associate cortisol to stress. But cortisol is not a bad guy, as it plays a role in essentially every system in the body, from our metabolism to our immune response. Under normal conditions, cortisol is secreted in our body all the time. It has a diurnal rhythm, which means it goes up and down over a 24-hour period in a predictable pattern. And I also talked about it in my video about rest and sleep last week, and I'll link it here if you missed it. So this shows you how our stress response can have a huge impact on how our body processes every threat. There are also two branches of our nervous system that are linked to the stress response. The sympathetic branch, which activates responses when we are alert or experience stress, the so-called fight or flight state, and the parasympathetic branch, which is related to digestion and relaxation. Ideally, we should be able to easily switch between sympathetic and parasympathetic states, during the day to keep our body in balance and with optimal levels of energy, focus, and performance. Unfortunately, nowadays we're often caught in this fight or flight response simply because we experience change in our normal routine or when demand exceeds our capacity, not because of a tangible threat that we need to run away from. Also, keep in mind that during that time, when we are stressed, our body doesn't waste energy on things like digestion or supporting the immune system. And those functions are temporarily interrupted while you can take care of your survival. Then return to balance once the threat is over, unless you experience stress for a prolonged period, which can negatively affect those systems. So it's no wonder that stress has a bad reputation in today's life. But you know what? Stress is not that bad. It's actually needed in some cases, and it can be a positive thing for us. Stress is great to motivate us to move into action, and it can be beneficial and help with problem solving, motivation, and productivity. Our body can use stress to enhance performance and to adapt and strengthen our abilities. When we exercise, for instance, that stress in our muscles, also called hormesis, prompts them to grow. So stress is not bad as long as it's short term and we can give our body time to recover for progressive adaptation. Otherwise, we're going to deal with distress, and it can harm us physically, mentally, and emotionally if we don't address it and we can't manage it. In a survey conducted by the American Institute of Stress, 40% of respondents reported that their job is very or extremely stressful. Maybe this sounds very familiar. And 20% said that their job was the number one stressor in their lives. However, we usually point the finger at stress in the workplace, but our body and brain can be impacted by other triggers in different ways and with different intensity in our daily life, since perception of stress and our response is highly individual. So other sources of stress can be emotional, environmental, financial, nutritional, physiological, psychological, and social. Let me know in the comment box below if you'd like me to go deeper in this area and in these areas and know more about it. Now let's talk about the dangers of stress. We've seen that cortisol is needed in our body, but when our cortisol levels stay elevated all the time because of chronic, repeated, or prolonged stress, this is when we experience problems. And chronically elevated cortisol is linked to increased inflammation in our body that can help to alter different systems, leading to insulin resistance with the risk of diabetes, immune dysfunction, mood disorders such as depression and anxiety, cardiovascular disease, infertility, weight gain, brain damage, and it can also influence our gene expression. But is it only stress that puts pressure on our body and brain? Well, it turns out that there are different types of pressure: stress, anxiety, and burnout. And many people think they are the same. I see this with my clients all the time. They don't really know the difference. And while it's true that some symptoms may overlap, they are pretty different. Stress is typically caused by an external trigger that can be short-term, ranging from a tight deadline at work to an argument with your spouse, or long-term, such as a difficult relationship or a chronic illness. Anxiety is typically caused by an internal trigger, and it's defined by a persistent feeling or of apprehension for something that either happened in the past or for something that hasn't happened yet. Burnout is caused by prolonged or chronic stress that is not recognized and or managed, and it's usually work-related, due to excessive workload, high pressure environment, a mismatch with your values, etc. But over time, it can impact your home and social life. I'll come back to burnout in a future video because it's really an epidemic in our society, and I want to be able to help you with more awareness and tips. Now, what are the symptoms? Well, stress, anxiety, and burnout all share some common symptoms, such as irritability, fatigue, headaches, digestive issues, or sleep issues, but there are many more. And each of us can manifest symptoms in different ways because, again, we're all different and we all have different thresholds. And if you'd like to learn more, you can get my ebook called Goodbye Stress that lists early warning signs typical of acute or short-term stress and secondary signs typical of chronic or long-term stress. Plus, it gives you more details about how stress works and the effects of stress in our body. I'll put the link to the ebook in the info box below so you can check it out. Time for tips. Today I will share 3 quick tips to help you manage some of your pressure, whether it's stress, anxiety, or burnout. And in future videos of this series, we'll look at other solutions. Many people rely on caffeine, on alcohol, or drugs to push down stress, but there's really no magic pill that can stop you from experiencing stress and manage it. Of course, the key to reducing your stress response would be to simply prevent the stress source, but we know that this is not always possible. Stress will always be there. Instead, you want to learn how to build resilience and manage your response during those moments when you feel overwhelmed, diminishing the harmful effects of your hectic life. So my first tip for today is breathe. This is so simple. Taking a quick pause and just breathe can do wonders for our stress response. By consciously breathing, we push more CO2 out of our body and increase oxygenation, becoming more relaxed. Also, when we pay attention to our breathing, our brain takes notice and tells the body to relax because it seems like there's nothing to worry about. So we can switch from our sympathetic state to the parasympathetic state. Tip number 2 is change your mindset. Stop listening to your inner critic and avoid negative influences as much as possible. Instead, focus on a positive outlook to allow for growth and expansion. When you wake up in the morning, don't think, I wonder what will happen today. Your first thought should be something like, today it's a new opportunity for new beginnings, and it will be amazing. Remember, you can choose what to focus on and what to work on. You can focus on positive thoughts or on negative thoughts. And I don't know if you remember when I talked about habits and the power to choose in one of the first videos of this series. When you choose one thought over another, that's when the magic happens, and you can teach your brain and body to control the stress response better. Tip number 3, make time for yourself. This can be advised for next week's video about self-care, but managing stress is really about taking care of yourself and making time for that. Very often we put ourselves at the end of our list, and this only exacerbates stress and frustration. When you have time to dedicate to the things and the people you love, your stress levels automatically go down, and you're able to boost your energy, happiness, positivity, creativity, productivity, and performance in life and at work. Remember, time is made, not found. So make time for something that really matters to you today. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, stress is one of my favorite topics, also because I've lived with it for decades. I learned a lot about it, and I learned how to manage it since I discovered that I have gene variations that make me more prone to anxiety and overwhelm. And this is something that you can also find out with my program, Regenerate Your Lifestyle, focused on epigenetics. As I mentioned in previous videos, with a simple DNA test, you get a lot of precious insights ranging from diet to nutrients, fitness, sleep, and stress. And I'll link more information about the program here and below. But today I'd like to talk about another coaching program that I offer focused entirely on the stress response, Reframe and Thrive. It's a 6-week program that will help you know the consequences of stress and its effects on our body and brain, identify the type of pressure you're experiencing. Is it stress, anxiety, or burnout? Recognize your stressors and triggers, and create your stress and anxiety management toolkit with personalized strategies and techniques to shift your mindset, build resilience, and reclaim your energy, purpose, focus, and joy in your life. Not to mention precious time for sustained success. I'll add the link to the program below so that you can check it out. Okay, enough of my sales pitch. You know that I love to read and I have tons of books to recommend. So today I link my list of favorite books on stress, anxiety, and burnout below. I hope you'll find some that you love too. It's now time for your weekly question. Whenever you feel pressure, instead of just reacting unconsciously, stop and ask yourself, what is happening right now and why? And then what action should I take to respond and why? Being more aware of what is happening and thinking about your response will put you more in control of the situation and help you break the pattern. As always, share your response with us below. I can't wait to read that. I'll see you in episode 9 of your weekly dose of life-work balance next week, where we'll talk about the 5th pillar of the Harmony Compass, care. If you liked this video and you want to hear more, make sure you give it thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and click the bell so you'll get notified when I have new video content. Thank you so much for watching. Don't stress too much and don't forget to live life fully. Bye guys!